who spends weeks creating drawings that look just like photographs. I'll see you in there. Welcome back. Still to come this morning, actress turned chef Lisa Faulkner is here. I'll be tasting a recipe passed down to her by her mother. And we'll show you how to create the perfect Easter egg hunt for your little ones, maybe your big ones too. And chocolatier Paul A. Young shows us how to make some unusual flavours of chocolate later. I've been asking you for your favourite childhood foods this morning, and Anne Harrod says that her favourite was the old classic Angel Delight. Oh, remember Angel Delight? Absolutely nothing in it that tasted like food, but it was amazing. And Heather Miller says, well, she's told us through Facebook that she went through a phase when all she would eat for dinner were Yorkshire puddings. My granny's Yorkshire puddings are the best. No, they are. Don't even try and compete. They are the best. Now, have a little look at these pictures. You're probably thinking, wow, amazing photos. Unbelievably, they are not photographs. They are, in fact, all drawings done with a pencil, and I'm joined by the incredible artist behind these spectacular pieces. Please welcome Paul Cadden. You must get that all the time. People go, oh, that's not. I mean, that's, you know, that was what's going on in the office in the last few weeks, and we've been looking at your work.
Most of the time, people are saying it's definitely a photograph, it's not a drawing, so they're always arguing, so it's quite interesting. Reading
online,
all the little blogs, yeah,
really?
So people are saying, you know,
he's a fraud.
It's cheating, it's a Photoshop, it's a fraud. So, yeah, it's kind of nice to see that as well, you know. So
let's go back to the little boy Paul drawing away. Were you always into getting the exact detail on drawings? Was that where
I was thinking back on it, I was about 6 or 7 when I was really drawing. Primary school, I was always kind of obsessed by getting the, you know, detail was important to me. Don't know why.
So if it was a buckle on a satchel or something, I
had to really look like what I was drawing, you know. That was the fun, really copying things from Commando comics when I was younger. So everything was really representational. So right through school to do my higher art school, it was always had to be really accurate. That was the thing, you know. So that's why I fell into graphics because of that.
Yeah, you went into graphics. I mean, you were saying it was quite interesting. There was a little bit of social engineering going on at school.
Yeah, at school. The middle-class girls at school definitely get told you could go into art school, but they won't make any money, so you need to make money. So basically go to College of Bill Printing, don't go to art school, which I always thought was strange. Because when you're younger, you don't know how your art's going to develop. You're just told, you know, you usually take on what your teacher say to you, you know.
Things would have developed differently.
No, I'm actually kind of glad it went that way because my art did suit being an illustrator, you know, so I worked as an illustrator. And
who did you work for?
Just a Clear Print in Falkirk was a small business, you know. I was illustrating their magazines. That's when you started apprenticeships, so, you know, I did that. And then it was, you know, they released to College of Building Print as well, which did more illustration. So yeah, I kind of fitted it well. So it was no problem not going to art school and actually going for a more graphic career, which you can see obviously in the drawings. You know, there's more.
Well, let's have a little look. You've brought some fantastic pieces in with you, and Anna, you take the photograph before, and then you work from the photograph. So we're going to start off with this one here, which is, it looks like a load of rubbish. It's food and drink, the remnants of those kinds of things.
Well, this one here was a different take on the idea of Scottish landscapes. So, you know,
I love it.
Most people just see it as garbage, and obviously everyone thinks of Scottish landscapes as, you know, beautiful, you know, mountains and valleys,
Scottish diet.
So there's a kind of little angle in there about a kind of comment on Scotland, the environment as well. You know, you can read a lot of things in there, obviously, about alcohol, you know. You know, everyone talks about Scotland's problem with alcohol.
The perennial problem with alcohol,
Yeah, you know, there's a political element in there about how Scottish people maybe see themselves in a sense, not in a negative way, but it's an idea about, you know, obviously independence, a big discussion in Scotland just now. So I like the fact on this title lets you read a lot more into it, because I hope my art's not just about people discussing the technique or how well it's drawn. I want them to really discuss, you know,
that's the thing. I was thinking
picture,
about that before. I didn't realise, you know, when I first saw your pictures, that you interpret the picture that you have taken, which is where the artistry comes from, as well as the technique. So it is as much about what's going on in your head as it is what's going on in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be an emotional connection with your drawings. There's no point in doing it, you know. The early photorealists, you know, maybe like early 70s, late 60s, they were doing a more strict interpretation of the photographs they were working from, whereas the development of hyperrealism, which I would be classed under, in the gallery I'm with, the +1 gallery is a hyperrealist gallery. certainly more social context in these pictures, you know.
Right.
You know, it has
So there is
developed.
a
Yeah, it
movement.
definitely has developed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not really a manifesto of hyperrealism. Everyone has different ways of approaching it, but I'd say
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot more social or political.
Yeah.
You know, compared to the earlier photorealists, American-based photorealists. You know, so for me, there has to be some connection or a narrative behind.
Let's
the
have a look
pictures,
at this fabulous portrait of a horse that you have here. Where was the horse?
A complicated sentiment. Well, that's a difficult one because the title kind of gives that one away. Complicated sentiment, because normally all the pictures like these ones you can see here or the other ones I've done were basically just what I felt like doing, but this one was more of a commercial project.
Right.
It was also a little thing to classical realism, except the difference is there's reflections. So that's a little kind of thing to
Do you
realism
enjoy
as well.
drawing an animal?
Normally it's not kind of it's not something, not usually a kind of thing I've worked on. It's usually cityscapes or landscapes. I did want to try something different, and it's maybe something I like to try. But this one I'm most proud of technically, but I didn't really have much of an emotional pull with this one, so that's why it's called Complicated Sentiment.
Right,
because
okay.
I didn't really have an emotional pull with
yeah,
it.
the sentiment was to earn money.
Yeah. Basically that one.
Which is not a bad thing. Eventually, as an artist, you want to earn some money from
you
it.
set off within your drawings. Yeah, it's nice to make money of them, but you don't say, right, I'm going to make a certain amount from this drawing. You draw it, see what happens, you know. But that one was definitely commercial. You know.
And these take roughly 4 to 6 weeks.
I think, yeah, they can take between 4 to 3 months sometimes. Again, depends how long you're working on. I'm not working 9 to 5 on them. You know.
You must have definitely a certain mindset that can, you know...
Kind of obsessive, but drawing. You know, these are really detailed, but the chaos that's around me in my house and mess and doesn't reflect what the drawings
Really,
are like.
there are
So
definitely
I like
two
to
sides.
focus. This is a good way to focus and meditate on being, you know.
We saw briefly earlier on the incredible portrait of the man with the water running off him, which is, for
it's been
me,
really
possibly
popular,
the
this one
most
after, yes.
photographic of,
Yeah,
you know, in
this
terms
one's
of the...
been very popular.
How did the water? How did you get the water?
Well, people always say, how do you draw the water? But it's just that's just the same as drawing any part of it. It's just tonality, light and shade, you know, value. So, well, the technique behind it is basically you start from a photograph, and the photographs may be manipulated. And then I usually use a gridding technique, meaning so the original picture, which is probably on the laptop, you can zoom in and a grid's put over it, maybe in Photoshop, you know, or it's, you know, maybe change focus, depth of field, blur certain parts, and then the actual picture you're working on, your canvas or your piece of paper, has each little individual grid that corresponds to the, you know, the original photograph what you've worked on. So you've maybe got really 5,000 little paintings, and then once you have that, you have a kind of kick-off to, you know, work on other things, you know. So you stop referring to the picture, you know, the more you carry on with it.
It was interesting. I was talking to the lady who is she's your dealer.
Yeah,
from the
gallery owner,
yes, right. And she was saying that there was a kind of backlash almost against drawing in the 90s, and it was all about Tracy Emin and Damien Hirst, and commercially those things weren't...
I've approached a few galleries myself and didn't seem too interested in Scotland. It tended to be more American or the +1 because they specialise in hyperrealism. But yeah,
now
is the movement... There seems to be a, you know, there seems to be a bit of a renaissance in realism. You know, hyperrealism, photorealism. There seems to be a bit of a renaissance.
What do you think that's about? Why do you think it's come back?
I don't know. I think swings and roundabouts. I mean, to me, it's not really important if it's conceptual art you're doing, which I like. I like Tracy Emin, Damien Hirst. It's more... I think what you're trying to get across is a
what
message.
Do they think of you?
They're just, to me, at the end, it all means to an end. They're all techniques. You know, you have genres. You're maybe pigeonholed by this certain thing.
Have they expressed what they think about your drawings?
No, not at all. You know, they tend. A lot of people argue between conceptual art, is that art, or you know, is photorealism art, and I think that's always part of anything you do. You know, to me, it doesn't bother me. You're just going to carry on. If people like it, all the better. You know.
And now you're doing what you really wanted to do as a little boy, which is just drawing for a living. All day
yeah,
long.
well, yeah, I'm starting to make a living just from doing art, so that's fantastic. I mean, everyone just wants to get paid for a job they can do, you know, so I've got enough work to keep me going for the next couple of years, and interest from Brazil, Cuba, China, everywhere, so that's fantastic, definitely.
Paul, thank you so much for sharing them with us and bringing them in. I'm so glad as well. They've all stayed in one place. They haven't fallen over. We haven't broken any of them. That's brilliant. And now we've just got to get them out the building as well.
I've sold them all anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he sold them, so you don't bother ringing up. Although you will take commissions, obviously. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, still to come, I open the door to my chocolate factory as master chocolatier Paul A. Young shows us just how easy it is to impress your friends with homemade ganache. And after the break, Lisa Faulkner